Damn it, a transfer. The starry sky disappeared and the temperature around me suddenly rose. Before my eyes, I couldn't see a thing. I could only feel, and it was like I was being wrapped in something very soft. I felt humanly bodily warmth against my face, arms, and chest. I seemed to be holding someone. No, am I the one being held? I timidly pulled my body away. Still don't know what's going on. I looked up. Before me was Itsami's face. Whoa! Whoa! Whoa, what the hell? What the hell? What happened before this? I'm gonna go back to Cocoro's area. I'm gonna see what happens right before she appears in the snow with the helicopter. Okay, so the bit that happened before this was when Cocoro was talking to Uni as Satoru. And Uni pointed at Cocoro saying, "It was you who killed the guy." And then she transferred. That's the last thing that happened. Everything in the background was fine. Which proves what I was thinking before. I don't know who it is, but those scenes where it's like red and everything, those are obviously when the consciousness is trying to go into the other body, but it's unable to, so it's in an endless void. Obviously. But it does mean that someone else was in his body, or at least his body was moving all by itself. And I have a feeling it's the other Satoru? But I don't know. I have a feeling someone else was controlling Satoru's body at the time. And that's why so much time has passed. And the same thing happens with Cocoro. Someone was in her body, which is what happened to the remains. They ate them. But why? That's my question. But holy crap. Anyway. Before me was Tsumi's face wearing a gentle smile. I jumped back reflexively. Tsumi met my reaction with a puzzled stare, her eyes wide. I began to think about the current position of my body. Tsumi's face being above me mean I was kneeling? Both my knees were on the floor and my face was buried in her chest. Why? Why would Cocoro... This was Sophia's living area. Just the same as it was. Wait. What is this? I was shocked at the drastic alteration to the appearance of the living area. The sofa had been ripped to shreds, and stuffing exposed like entrails. The table was being flipped over, the chairs broken, and the computer monitor knocked over to the floor. The living area of the dining area used to have glass divider between them. It was no more, having been shattered to tiny pieces. Plasma display screen by the wall was full of cracks that radiated outwards from the center. The huge hole gaped open in the middle of it, as though it had been shot through with an enormous bullet. A sense of terrible violence beyond a tragedy. I was speechless. The concept of words had completely left my head. "Have you calmed down?" she asked, smiling calmly. I was still in shock at the sight of it. All my efforts to gather my thoughts were completely futile. "Yukidoh-kun, right?" I slowly nodded. "When did your personality switch?" "Just now. Just before I stood up. From my extremely limited command of spoken language, I was somehow able to pluck the appropriate words." "I see, so you don't remember anything then?" "About what?" "Your rampage in the living area." "Rampage?" "That's right, in other words, this. Cocoro did this." "Yes." "Why?" "I wonder, I have no idea. By the time I heard you, you were already in the midst of it, and then I tried to calm you down." "By holding me?" Itsumi silently nodded. Why had Cocoro done such a horrible thing? She didn't, though. No matter what the circumstances were, I just couldn't understand how this level of violence was the product of her hand. Yet another great mystery had been done. And that wasn't all that bothered me. Sami's attitude. As I recall, didn't she resent me from getting in the way of her plan? To a certain extent, she had returned to her gentle self this afternoon, but even then she didn't so much as smile. But it was different now. She gazed at me with eyes full of love, like a Virgin Mary. I tried to gauge her true intentions, ever a mystery, an obscuring tempest of mysteries. I couldn't understand any of this, but that didn't matter anymore. "Sorry, but let me be alone for a while." Without weaker to utterance, I went to take my leave. but I stopped at once and turned back. Come to think of it, where are Tori and Uni? They ran away. They went to Unicorn's room together. Is that so? Thank you. I didn't dare question her any further. If she said that they ran away, that means Cocoro hadn't just attacked inanimate objects, but people as well. How could this have happened? I dragged myself to my room with heavy feet. What really happened to Cocoro? This was the only thing passing through my mind right now. Just what had happened right before the transfer. I checked the notepad, but there weren't any new messages there. I wanted to know what happened at Sphere while I was away. Besides reading Kokoro's message and asking the others, I had no other way of knowing. Should I try asking Uni and Tori? But I didn't really feel up to it. It was as plain as day what had happened with them. It'd be great if there was another way. A way to check what had happened before the transfer. Just then I remembered something, and Emerita's words. If you want to know that badly, I'll show you later. I just finished organizing all the data from before when he got here. Data? Now to think about it, there was surveillance equipment set up in the small room, which meant that data couldn't have been the footage recorded by the surveillance cameras, could it? A machine in the small room might store all of it. I left that room right away. The door to the room had been left open. Passing through it, I stood before the console. I'd close the door if I were you. The computer was still in the wall. The OS was no different from usual. I set up the terminal and began to type. I was able to retrieve the video surveillance data with ease. In the meantime, I tried playing the footage from the camera of the living area. It flickered to life on the main overhead monitor. I watched intently. Sunday, January 15, 2012. Time 10:18 p.m. Location living area. Saw myself on screen, engrossed in conversation with Uni. Camera probably didn't have a microphone because I couldn't hear any voices. I had no memories of this, which meant that the body I'm seeing was being controlled by Kokoro's consciousness. Uni moved his lips as though muttering something. My body did as well. Uni gave a small nod, he squeezed his palm shut. My body drew closer to Uni. Uni slowly began backing away. An expression of fear formed on the childlike face. Fear followed by sorrow? Tears were starting to well up from behind his glasses, and then for a time the two stood still as I locked on. The silence continued. Eventually Uni raised one arm. Extending a finger, he pointed straight at my body. Uni's lips just barely moved. And immediately after that, what was I thinking? My body suddenly struck Uni. Uni's small body was knocked to the floor. And then as if it hadn't had enough, my body hurled itself on top of Uni with great force. My body began to squeeze Uni's thin neck. At that moment, a Tori suddenly appeared from the corner of the screen. Tori circled around behind my body, wrapped her arms around its hips, began pulling with all her might. It looked as though she was trying to tear my body away from Uni. My body turned around and threw Tori to the floor. Since their mouths were wide open, did that mean they were yelling? And thus an act of shocking brutality unfolded before my eyes. My body tore apart the sofa. I grabbed the ashtray from the table and aimlessly hurled it away. It hit the plasma display straight on. The fragments of the screen exploded into the air. It swung the chairs around, kicked at the table, and grabbed the computer and the monitor, yanking it until it tore free of the wires. Still gripping the monitor, it used it to demolish the glass partition between the two rooms. I couldn't bear to watch what happened next. My body went into a violent fit, tearing around the room like a wild beast. This is Fuyukawa Kokoro's true nature. The screen now showed the panicking figures of Uni and Tori as he tried to escape. They ran into Uni's room hand in hand. Taking no notice into their disappearance, my body only slipped further and further into its rampage. It was almost as if my body was trying to validate its own existence, as if it was clumsily trying to assert itself. My body loved this world, but hated it at the same time. My body was playing with the world. My body screamed out loud, then it wept. My body was struggling, as if it was doing all it could to destroy the world. And eventually, my body exhausted itself and slept in its Sami's bosom. Sami seemed to pity my body, but at the same time, she seemed to love it as well. With her warmth, she forgave everything, accepted everything with the magnanimity of a goddess. Or at least that's how the images on the screen made me feel. My body was sleeping in Sami's embrace, peacefully, as if dozing beneath the early spring and sunlight. There wasn't a hint of disgraceful behavior from a moment before. Natsumi held my body to her chest with the half-closed eyes of Virgin Mary, and an artlessly smile on her face. Sheesh. The 6th day. Another shadow. The clear blue sky stretched out above me. A freezing wind blew around me as it whistled along the ground. I breathed in a lungful of fresh air and savored its piercing chill. Monday, January 16th, 2012. Present time, 7:49 a.m. Everything is gradually coming to an end. The proposition I called R, some parts of it still remain unanswered. But I have no time to deal with them one by one. For now, I've got to concentrate on breaking free from the space-time transfer phenomenon as fast as possible. According to Enomoto, the space-time transfer only affects the area within a 110-meter radius. Every single thing within that area, between location A in the past and location B in the future, changes places during the space-time transfer. But for some reason, only Cocoro's and my own consciousness remain behind. Whenever the transfer occurs, we lose our bodies. Then our consciousness, lost without their containers, we're forced to possess an available vessel as an emergency countermeasure. Myself in Cocoro's body and Cocoro in mine. But if it's going by that logic, that doesn't mean an extra consciousness can't just go in. So what if there is someone waiting outside of the barrier, and then they go in during a transfer, and their consciousness is forced to inhabit another vessel? I don't know, that's just a random guess, but it would explain why there's always those red screens and then they wake up and something happened and it's never explained. Like Enomoto's death, the drug thing, the rampage. Myself and Cocoro's body and Cocoro in mine, therefore in order to put a stop to this phenomenon, I simply had to escape the affected area. If I left the circle, my body would no longer be transported to the matter of Cocoro of the past, thus ending the phenomenon. Of course, nothing would happen to my consciousness either. At the same time, and the same goes for Cocoro, since the alternate vessel, my body won't jump to Mount Cocoro, her consciousness should stay put, providing that everything Enomoto told me was the truth. Yeah. Well, there's nothing I can do but believe him. So then what happens now? If I let a space-time transfer occur while I'm out of reach, then Cocoro's consciousness would be transported to Alasagi Island inside her own body. In other words, no more personality transfers. And just like Yomagi and the others, she jumped through time with her mind and body intact. The shelter cabin of 2011 would appear on the Asagi Island of 2012. After that, I, who remained outside of the circle, would march into the shelter cabin, collect Cocoro, Yomagi, Lin, and Uni, and lead them out of the circle. As a result, they'd all end up in the future, but this isn't the time to be picky. If they remained in the shelter cabin any longer, they'd all get caught in the avalanche and die, just as history dictated. Their lives hang in the balance. A light time leap is trivial against the weight of a human life. With that, all my objections on Mount Cocoro would be taken care of in one fell swoop. Now, but what about things at Sphere? Yesterday, the Uni of the shelter cabin told me this. Next transfer will happen on 17th at 4:48. That's why until then what? Transfer decided to occur right at the most important moment, so I didn't get to hear the rest. I think he probably meant to say, till then you have to do something, or something along those lines. But I had no clue what it was supposed to be doing. He couldn't have meant get everyone in Sphere out of the circle, could he? Tsumi and Eunice are no problem. But there's no way I can just let a psychotic murderer who killed 12 people go free. With that said, if this transfer phenomenon isn't going to end in the near future, then leaving the three of them behind in Sphere isn't a good idea either. Jeez, what should I do? In any case, I still had time until then. Until that moment comes, I decided to refrain from doing anything careless. I drew another breath, a deep breath of fresh air into my lungs. My exhalation sparkled white before vanishing with the wind. I inspected Itsumi, Hattori, and Uni's rooms. Nothing was particularly out of place. It was already past 8, yet all three of them were still sound asleep. At any rate, still in the middle of the living area. What would drive you to do this? I involuntarily mouthed these words as I surveyed the decimated room. Why would Fuyukawa Cocoro do such a thing? For her to be pushed this far, something terrible must have happened. The trigger was probably the conversation with Uni. Right in the middle of their conversation, Cocoro and my body had suddenly attacked Uni. Those events had been clearly recorded. I'd seen the video last night in that small underground room. What in the world did Uni say to her? I looked down at the shattered glass and shook my head. My god. At any rate, Fuyukawa's latent violent side revealed itself. She's more than likely the one who brutally stabbed Inamoto's to death as well. There's probably a certain trigger for her violent outbursts. When that set her off, she'd lose all control and an insane personality would suddenly take over. Personality? Suddenly take over? Something in the back of my mind was nagging at me, but I didn't know what it was. Anyway, I decided to ask Uni about that talk with Cocoro once he woke up. I don't think Inamoto's dead. Now let me correct myself there. I don't believe his consciousness is dead. Because he's in the circle, which means he does jump with everyone else. But who's to say he doesn't jump to another body? I have a feeling that he is still alive in another person's body. At that point, I noticed something in the corner of the room. Scratched up scrap of paper. Picked it up and folded. Crude and familiar handwriting. A message from Cocoro. A message I'd yet to read had been inscribed there. It's Cocoro. Something strange going on with your body. What happened? Did someone make you take poison? Please tell me. Even just a little is fine, so tell me. I don't want to die. I don't want you to die either. What should I do? What should I do to help? I'm scared. I'm very scared. I have no idea what is happening. I don't know what will happen 5 minutes from... What will happen 5 minutes from now? Don't know what I can believe in either. Hey Satoru, I want to meet you. Every glance is fine, but... Even a single glance is fine, but I want to meet you. Because the one reflected in the mirror isn't you, it's me. I want to meet you, that's real you. Because there's no one I can believe in but you, Satoru. I want you to tell me everything's alright. I want you to tell me there's nothing to be worried about. Judging from the content, she must have written the last night, while the DMT was racking my body. The ink had blurred here and there, swollen and then dried, creating ripples, tear stains. I touched them with my fingertips. Her fear, her hopelessness, her sadness, they all permeated through my fingertips. That's probably what Hattori, yeah, Hattori, she probably ripped it up, right? That's why it's scrapped up, because she said she read the notes. Something ate down deep within my chest. What was happening right now? Yesterday outside the shelter cabin, Yamaki and Lin had chased after a helicopter. When the markings on it, I guess it was self-defense. Just happened to pass over the skies of the Asagi Island in 2012. But of course, they had no way of knowing that. They were convinced it was the rescue team, so they chased after it. That was probably the best chance I had to bring them out of the circle. However, just before we reached the edge of the circle, I transfer. What happened to them after that? Did they stand there dumbfounded, staring blankly up at the empty sky? Or something like that. The helicopter would have suddenly vanished like that. You couldn't help but doubt your own eyes. Then what happened? Did they give up and return to the shelter cabin, or... don't tell me. They continued chasing the helicopter and leave the circle of Mount Cocoro. No way, they couldn't have. According to history, they should be caught in an avalanche at Location X early in the morning on 17th. Whatever the circumstances, they couldn't have spent an entire day wandering around in the snow only to turn up at Location X. Even if one of them had suggested it, as long as they're to pro-mountain tier like Yamagi, I don't think they'd do such a reckless thing. And even if they did leave the circle, they should have returned to the shelter cabin by now. That's what I believed. Moreover, the helicopter was flying west in the first place. On the contrary, Location X was... Just to be safe, I took the magazine. Opened the feature, just as I thought. According to the rough map of the page, Location X where the bodies were discovered was to the east. Since they were running west, that means they should have to backtrack in order to reach Location X. There's no reason they'd go out of their way to reach Location X. Yeah, they must have returned to the shelter cabin. They must have. I had no way of knowing for sure. All I could do was hope for the best. Working to convince myself, I flipped through the pages of the magazine. At the end of the article, there was a list of all the crash victims. The full names of all 31 people on board. Fuyukawa Cocoro, Yamagi Seiji, Mizumi Lin, and Kasuda Uni, their names were all there. But there was another name I knew well. Suzukage Tori-san. Tori. Potentially spoke it out loud. But if I thought about it calmly, then there wasn't much to be surprised about. It was completely normal for Suzukage Tori to be on the list. Found her body within the circle of the shelter cabin after all. Somewhere buried under the thick snow on Mount Cocoro, I saw her body with my own two eyes. Well, with Kokoro's eyes, but then why was she out there? No need to think about it, Suzukage Tori was one of the passengers on Flight L. from the lightweight clothes she was wearing, guessing she wasn't planning on scaling Mount Cocoro. And her name was printed there as well anyway. She probably survived the crash somehow, found herself alone in the midst of a blizzard, like the refugees at the shelter cabin, and began wandering around, searching for help, searching for a warm place. But a lone woman under those conditions couldn't have been that strong. And with those clothes, there's no way she could have endured that snowstorm. Sometime after finally setting foot inside the circle, all her strength deserted her, and she collapsed. Time passed, and on January 17th, she was discovered by the rescue team. The corpse was retrieved just like those of the other victims. I don't think I'm far from the truth. That's what happened to the body of Hattori. Normally her death would be something to mourn. But the abnormal phenomenon was at work here. This is the space-time transfer. Unless I messed up, Hattori isn't dead yet. She's alive. She's just borrowing the body of Kaiko. In short, this is how it went. First space-time transfer occurred sometime past 8:30 p.m. on January 11th. Suzukage Hattori's body was already inside the circle, lying in the snowfield. However, she wasn't dead, she was still breathing, and just barely. And then a transfer. Suzukage Hattori's consciousness was separated from her body. I'm not sure why, but when you consider that Cocoro and I are in the very same situation, it's not unthinkable. Just as my consciousness entered Kokoro's body and Kokoro's consciousness entered mine, Suzukage Hattori's consciousness entered Inubushi Kaiko's. Goes without saying that Inubushi Kaiko's body must have been deserted, an empty vessel at the time. Therefore, logic would dictate that Inubushi Kaiko must have been separated from her body as well. Me and Kokoro's body, Cocoro and my body, Inubushi and Tori's body, and Tori and Inubushi's. If the transfer of things continued like that for 33 minutes, during which Inubushi Kaiko probably passed away. Trapped in another person's body, she died. No, there's no reason to assume she died during the first 33 minutes. The second, the third, or the fourth, it could have been any of the early transfers. The results would have been the same. Anyway, Inubushi Kaiko's consciousness met its death while in Suzukage Hattori's body. Judging from the corpse I saw yesterday, I'm certain it's been a while since she died. She couldn't have held out for more than a few hours in a blizzard, dressed like that. In July of 2009, Inubushi Kaiko murdered 12 innocent people, one of whom was Junichi. In the frigid snow, unable to so much as move a finger. Oh, but she did move a finger. She died. I couldn't help but feel it was a fitting end for her. So then what happened to Suzukage Hattori after she was transported? Since she lost the body on the other side, her original body that serves as a counterpart in the exchange. Hattori had no vessel to transfer to. If that vessel disappeared from the circle, her consciousness wouldn't separate from it. Meaning from that point on, Hattori hasn't experienced any personality transfers. Which brings us here. Most likely from here on out, she'll have to live the rest of her life as Inubushi Kaiko. The fate she's been handed is a price for her life. I wonder what she's thinking now. Is she accepting this completely and changed new self? She must have realized it by now. But she doesn't seem to care about it in the least. She always acts calm and composed. Just who is the true Suzukage Hattori? She kills the rat without batting an eye and toyed with my emotions while wearing the fearless smile. Thinking back on it, she actually seemed to be enjoying her awful fate quite a bit. This harsh reality amuses her. The mind of Suzukage Hattori might be far more frightening than Inubushi Kaiko's. She's a bigger threat than I thought. Rejection. Left the room and found Uni on a chair in the dining area. He was eating breakfast by himself. There was a plate of scrambled eggs and toast. Good morning, Uni. My attempt to greet him met it with failure. So much as a glance my way, he suddenly continued eating. Where's Hattori and Natsumi?
Don't know.
What? Don't know? Didn't you promise to keep an eye on them?
I don't remember making that promise.
What?
Promise is no longer in effect.
Uni? I might have tried to draw nearer to him, however.
Stay away! Don't you dare take another step!
These cold worms formed an invisible wall between us, stopping me in my tracks. I halted at once. Whoops. Let me scroll up.
Don't you dare take another step.
These cold words formed an invisible wall. I halted at once. Hey, Uni, why are you avoiding me?
It's not like I wanted to say those things, but I'm scared. So scared I don't know what to do. Satoru, you tried to kill me, didn't you?
What are you saying? I was momentarily flustered, but I realized only a second later where he was coming from. Uni, probably. Do you think I'm the one who killed Yamamoto?
This goes way beyond just thinking. I saw you with my own eyes. You were laughing as you stabbed that man over and over and over.
Ooh.
Weren't you? Even you must have known he was already dead. But you kept on stabbing him.
Ooh. Ooh. What if... Oh, yeah. So, if we're going to go by the thinking that Kaiko, the body that Kaiko goes into at Mount Akira is the Hitori body. Could it be that Kaiko is jumping to different bodies? Like, for example, maybe she took over Satoru's body and killed the guy? And maybe she took over Kokoro's body and ate all the food because she was starving? I don't know why that could be a thing, but I'm going to keep on thinking that because I think that's the most logical solution right now. That it's Kaiko who's taking over the bodies at random.
You butchered his corpse, acting like it was all a game. To you, didn't you?
I was speechless. I was laughing like it was all a game. In other words, Fuyukawa slaughtered in a murder for sport. I don't understand. I can't understand Fuyukawa's personality anymore. But now wasn't the time for that. I had to clear up this misunderstanding. I had to. No, it's not like that, Uni. I'm not the one who killed the guy.
So then it was Cocoro, is that what you're saying?
Uni's eyes were still glued to his plate. From his small back, I could sense something beginning to boil up within him. I held my breath and answered softly, so as to not provoke him. Yes.
Cut it out already. I've had all I can take. Can't stand this anymore.
Uni, please understand. Our body is the same, but Cocoro and I have very different personalities.
Enough already, I'm sick of it.
Uni bolted up from his chair as he yelled.
I don't know anything about this DID or whatever, and I don't care. Now for little Satoru this and Cocoro that. You are you. Just you. You killed the man, you tried to kill me too. You destroyed the living area, you even attacked Tori. All that was you, right? You're responsible for everything. I don't remember it was another personality. Enough excuses. Just the fact that you're here scares me.
Uni had a point. From his standpoint, it was only natural to think that. I couldn't answer.
Don't look down on me just because I'm a kid. There's no way I'll let myself be killed by the likes of you. Don't you ever come near me again, you hear?
His cold words pierced me, and without warning, Uni got up to leave. I can't let him go like this. I rushed over to him and took hold of his arm. Wait, Uni.
Let me go.
Uni struggled furiously trying to shake off my arm. He landed a square kick to my abdomen. But since he was only a child, he didn't do any significant damage. But seeing him struggle so hard against me made my heart sink. Disgust, hatred, scorn, fear. Taken aback by such open rejection, I instinctively let go of his arm. Uni now free of my hold and stared doubtedly into my eyes as he slowly backed away. Alright, I promise. I won't come near you again. I raised both my hands in a conciliatory gesture. Will you just tell me one thing? Uni scowled at me balefully, a sharp glint in his eyes. He was still on guard, ready to repel me at any moment.
What?
About last night.
Last night?
What were you talking about with Cocoro last night?
Same thing I just said to you. I said you're the one who killed the man. And when I did, you suddenly hit me. After that, I don't need to tell you what happened, right?
Uni cast a quick, sidelong glance at the living area. The extent of destruction there spoke more clearly than the words that it could.
There, I answered you. Make sure you keep your promise.
As I searched for the right words to say, Uni abruptly turned and ran. Damn. Oh, whoops. As I searched for the right words to say, Uni abruptly turned and ran. He rushed into his room and slammed the door shut behind him. I heard the lock click from the inside, followed by the sound of heavy objects being dragged across the floor. Was he barricading himself in? The sound filled me with utter dejection. Fell into a stupor. Here was yet another big problem, as though I didn't have enough of those already. After all, the battering the current situation had given me, Uni's words were like the finishing blow. He hated my guts now. Uni was no longer on my side. I didn't have anyone I could trust, not even Fuyukawa Cocoro. I'd thought of her as my precious partner, but she'd merely stabbed a murderer and upon being confronted as the victim, flew into a violent rage. Culprit, I mean. Is this place a hangout for lunatics? Heard of her suspicious behavior, Tsumi's quest for revenge, and now I'd lost Uni, the only one I could rely on. I don't think I could take much more of this. Damn, why did it turn out like this? The complaints just flow out of me. I dejectedly sat down in the chair Uni had vacated. However, the goddess of fate didn't spare me a moment of respite, because at the very moment, "Gah!" A shrill scream shattered the silence. I instinctively got up. I turned in the direction of the shriek, the basement storeroom, sprinted down the stairs as fast as I nearly fell.